Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our show. This is just going to be a short intro as we are putting out the second part of Darryl Williams' episode that we did last week on Wednesday. So if you haven't listened to the first one, please go back and listen to that one. Basically, the first part was specifically more around uncovering of the burial site with 215 Indigenous children. And we wanted to get his words and his voice in on that conversation. So listen to that, as it's a really important one. This is the second part of the interview, and it's just going to cut into some of the different conversation that we had with Darryl. As we were talking to him, our conversation kind of went all over the place with different pieces. And like he said, it's hard to have a conversation about one specific thing without knowing the whole big picture. And in many ways, I think of this the same. I think of it like health or anything else. It's hard to narrow down on one specific thing because as soon as you get into it, there's so many other pieces that need to be talked about. And so we're going to share some of the other insights that Darryl shared with us that we think are really valuable for people to hear. So tune in and please leave any comments that you have or questions. We are putting together a ceremony as we talked about in the first episode. So Taya and Darryl's good friend Christine and our good friend Christine, they are going to be organizing a ceremony that we will be doing. And so they are in the plans right now and making that all happen. So as we get more information about that, we will share that with you. It sounds really amazing. And I think that there's a huge potential for healing to incorporate this for everyone. So I hope you enjoy this episode as well. Take notes on any of the key pieces that resonate with you, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
I know we spoke, there was a lot of stuff the other day, and it's good because the way we go about things, we talk about the subject like you want to do to you, right? Stick to that main subject, but it always branches off into a bigger avenue because spirituality, there's no end to it. So you may go down that road of trauma and healing, but the answer is far deeper.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's one aspect of it. I mean, we're looking at, like I told you the other day. So we had a meeting the other night, right? Uh, Over here on the reserve, and there was people showed up, and they're basically all on the same page. What's going on with all the trauma, and more people are coming out that were traumatized in the schools and the churches here and the reserve, right? So they're in pain, they're suffering. So we had a fire and I did a ceremony there for them. It's just to start the first step of their healing. So they're very much in pain, and many of them are, my age, a little younger, older. So they've been carrying this trauma for 40, 50, 60 years, some of them, okay? It doesn't go away unless you address it and you heal the spiritual aspect, right? Because the mind will always play back and record everything. It records, and it's like a tape recorder. So you may feel good for a few days, and then you're right back at it. It comes back. It's in your face. You cannot run away from it. So you have to face it, right? There's a lot of fear and trauma, so that needs to be faced. Our people are going through a big shift right now, but it's a positive thing. Even though it's negative, what came out of it, those children gave up their lives. Our ancestors gave up their lives so we can have a better future, right? When we look at Mother Earth and the universe, the way it works, it's always cycles. We have to understand the cycles of, we call it time. There's no time. But Mother Earth tracks time, whether we like it or not. See, the Mayans tell us this. They're very in-depth in their calendar. So we are going through this cycle of trauma for a reason, right? We're cleaning ourselves. In our native culture, we call it spiritual baggage. You carry it with you. I mean, you go anywhere else, they're going to call it karma. It's plain and simple. It's the same thing. It's just different language, right? So we're clearing karma. And it's not necessarily just native karma. Because when you talk about karma, there's ancestral karma that goes back. We could be carrying karma from our great-grandparents. They did something in a negative way, and your ancestral lineage pays the price for it. And you have to deal with it and clean it and fix that. So this is what we're going through right now. And then when you look at ancestral karma, you look at national karma for the nation. And then you have world karma. So it keeps expanding. So when we look at world karma, we're going through, you see world wars. The whole world is involved, right? That's a karmic situation. That energy needs to be purified because something builds up to it and builds up to it. All the characters involved on the planet have brought that energy to that point, whether it took days, months, years, decades, or lifetimes to get to that. So we are constantly going through the in and out flow of these cycles and purifying and evolving at the same time. So sometimes we're taking 2 or 3 steps ahead, 2 or 3 steps backwards. So it's a slow process as we go through the cycles. And that's what we're in right now. So we're purifying and evolving and doing our best to heal. And the worldview, when we look at the worldview of purification and healing, because as natives, we have a worldview. And we see the whole planet as our family, every nation, because we have what is called a medicine wheel. So on the medicine wheel, if you could just visualize it, it's a ring, and there's a cross. So the cross is symbolic of the 4 directions. And on those directions, you'll have a race of beings. So to the north, you have the white race on the top. They're supposed to take care of the air on the planet. So if you go in a clockwise fashion, you have the red race. That's my people. We're supposed to take care of Mother Earth. So if you go to the south, you have the black race. So they're supposed to take care of the fire on the planet. So now if you go to the east, you get the yellow race. So they're supposed to take care of the water on the planet. So we all have a great responsibility upon Mother Earth, you see? Now referred to as Matia, as Huna tells us. But it's always Mother Earth, right? That's what our creation story tells us. So when you look at these root races and the responsibilities we have to creation, to take care of creation, but we get lost and we forget our responsibilities upon Mother Earth. Every nation does this. We forget because we go through a dark night of the soul on the planet, which lasts for thousands of years. Okay? So we go to sleep. We forget who we are. We wake up right at the end, right when Mother Earth is going to go through a shift. We start waking up. Not everybody wakes up, but this time a lot woke up. It's beautiful. There's millions that are awake on the planet. So it's never been like this in the past history. The Mayans, I tell you, it's never been like this. So many people make the shift with Mother Earth. So on that medicine wheel, what insight came to me about the medicine wheel? So you have the cross in the wheel. So right in the center, what came to me is the brown race should sit there because there's nobody that occupies the center. Because the brown race are supposed to, that's where you come from, Tia, the whole Middle East and India. They should sit on that right in the center because they're to remind everybody, all the 4 races, of their responsibility and duties. Because we are all supposed to take care of Mother Earth. We're all supposed to take care of the air, the water, the fire, the earth, and especially ether, the spirit, right? We're supposed to incorporate everything in one. Everything is one. It's all in our bodies. I mean, we have everything running through us from Mother Earth. We have all the elements, all the platonic solids are in us. We are all that already, right? From Great Spirit, we are everything. We forget. So now we're waking up again, which is beautiful. I mean, there was a time I forgot. I woke up, in my early 20s, I start getting back to spirituality and coming back home, living a wild life. So I put that behind me, and I said, there's much more to life. We have to look at where we're going, because when you look at all these races, I'm going to go back to the medicine wheel again. These races, we came from somewhere, right? We didn't just pop out of nowhere. See, our star families, whether you look at them as the Galactic Federation, the Pleiadians, the Orions, and the Syrians, they are the liaison to the Great Spirit to us. But there's another aspect that's a liaison. It's our own spirit, our own soul. So once we tap into our own spirit, our own soul, that's all we need, because we are connected with all the star families, all the guides in the spirit world, whoever they are, the archangels, the Buddhas. So we are connected to all of them through our spirit. So it's when we identify with our spirit, our soul, on a daily basis, right? It's a practice every day. Yeah, spirituality is a job. It's work, but it's a beautiful, beautiful job. Let me tell you, once you get into it, you guys are doing it. You know what you get from it is so, it's so wonderful. You know how you feel to serve. You're serving what you're doing. So we connect through this way, and that's one. It's only one aspect. Like I'm just telling you about medicine, you know, and how we're all unified. How we're supposed to be unified on the planet. The peacemaker, when he came to us, the Great Spirit sent him to us. I told you that. Tarong Hiwago, our native god. So he sent Daganawida, the master of things. He had a worldview. It wasn't just for natives. He united the 5 nations. The Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, the Cayuga, and Seneca. He united us because we were warring with each other. So he brought us together in a great peace. He gave us a great law of peace. Then after, we had made treaties, like I told you, with all our sisters and brothers who came over the great waters. And that world peace was to spread out throughout Mother Earth. And when we made agreements with the Dutch, the French, the British, and then later on the U.S. accepted it, the Wampum Treaty. That was in 1779. They broke off from the royal family, the Queen, right? The crown. That's where they came from. So they start fighting with their own family. And that's where the United States was born. Why did that happen? They came here, the 13 colonies they settled in, and they seen the 5 nations, our people. They says, how can natives, they would refer to us as savages, how can they have a confederacy with 5 of them all living in peace and harmony under a law together? It was already established long before they got here. We already had our system of governance functioning. We had rights, duties, responsibilities to nature, creation, and one another as that extended family. So they formed their government system, the U.S., after the 5 nations. And you can find this, it's written in many different places. They looked at us and then they said they don't want to be with the crown. They want to have their own. They said they don't need that no more, right? They came to a new land, but they were supposed to let go of all that stuff when they came here. But they held on to the control that the crown had on them, the domination. So this is one thing they didn't let go of. There has to be guidelines in 3D reality. Without guidelines, humanity goes in chaos, and this is the situation. So that worldview I'm talking about, they seen us unified working, and it wasn't just 5 nations, because it grew after that. Some say there was 50 native nations to 100 native nations within the Confederacy, all unified in a peace with each other. So later on, they create the United Nations. That is the foundation of it. Nobody knows about these things. We know about it. Okay? But they don't go and tell anybody that. But I'm sure if you talk to Vladimir Putin, he's going to tell you this, because they're smart people. The Chinese, they know. They're very intelligent. they're more intelligent than we can imagine because they're tapped into things that, we're talking about right now. They know about the star families. They know all these things. And they work hand in hand with them because they're such on high governmental levels, right? They have access to, you know, things that scientific understandings. Like I got into teachings with, I don't know if you know the Gaia TV. They had a series on there. Did you ever see it? Corey Gould and David Wilcock. Yeah. So that's some interesting stuff. Okay. So I was looking at that and I brought it all together, because they were talking about the moon and everything. And I said, I look at our creation story and everything. Like I said, look where I'm going with all this. Okay. We're supposed to stay on track, but it goes off in many directions. Healing is a beautiful thing. Communication is healing. So I'm going to come back to what we did the other night. We started the healing process here with the people. So we use our sacred tobacco, which was given to us. I told you the creation story. And she gave birth to her daughter. When her daughter died, what grew out of the grave was out of her mind, the sacred tobacco plant grew. So that's what we use to communicate with Great Spirit. It'll get you multi-dimensional. So out of her breast, the corn grew. Out of her navel, the squash grew and the pumpkins. They say out of her fingers grew the beans. So we have the corn, beans, and squash, which we refer to as the tree sister. That's the staple of our nutrition, right? To help keep us healthy. Every culture has their main staples. China, they have rice, right? Maybe US, they have hot dogs, but everybody has what they like, right? But, I love learning about people. And by learning about other nationalities, we know. I've studied Buddhism. I've studied Kriya, Hindu teachings. And I learned more by studying about them, about my culture. It's funny because we all have the same thing. It's just maybe in different ways. You know what I mean? If we go back to one cycle, just 12,000 years ago, when there was a big ice age, right, upon Mother Earth, and this ice age, it was about a mile high right here where I am. I came to New York City, and it was the whole north was engulfed in a big block of ice. But then it started melting, and I told you about the migration pattern. So when we came up through South America, the Hopi people finished. And we didn't talk about this last time, but there was a native race. They got lost. They went over the Bering Strait. They went into Mongolia. That's the Dalai Lama and his people. They're native. They're from here. Mm-hmm. So the Hopis and Mayans have that prophecy of them. So he went to the Hopi Reserve, and then they laughed. They said, our lost brother, he finally made it back home. So the Dalai Lama started laughing. Okay? But the Tibetans don't speak of this. I never heard them speak of it. It's a funny story, but it's good. And, they say all natives came over the Bering Strait from Mongolia and migrated here. That's not true. Nations did come. You got the Navajo, you have the Apache. All where you live, are you on the Vancouver Island there?
Yeah.
All up the coast there, you have a lot of native nations who came from Mongolia. Mm-hmm. They speak the Athabascan dialect. But they don't understand. About 50,000 years ago, the last time Lemuria went down, from Lemuria, you had all the people on there went to the north, south, east, and west. So people went to Mongolia from there. They went into China. So by them coming back here, they're finding their way back to their people, you see? Because the majority came this way. Some went west, some went south. Huna's people went to New Zealand, you see, and all the little islands around there. They inhabited all those islands after many years, after everything settled down. So history is so important for our healing. When we know history, it helps us to heal, because without history, we don't have a future, you see. It teaches us not to repeat itself. So we keep repeating because we keep going unconscious. We're sleepwalkers. This is what happens.
And these conversations are so great because it's not history that we've been taught in schools oftentimes. It's not history by the people who've won wars and written what's gone on, but it's actually history known on a deeper level, passed orally from generation to generation. It's more based on the truth of our reality.
It's all biased, what you hear in school, because they came here not to create peace and love and harmony. They came here to conquer, you see. So this is why we had to offer them treaties. Because when they came here in 1492, in the late 1400s, early 1500s, we were getting along with them. But what they did is they emptied all their jails in Britain and France, and they sent all the criminals here first. So they sent a lot of corrupt people. So there was strife going on at the same time. 1500s, there was battles, wars. But in the 1600s, you see, we fed them, we took care of them, because they were dying when they came here. They couldn't take care of themselves. So we gave them life. We gave them a place to stay. You see, we shared the land with them, because that's what it's all about. We don't own this continent as natives. We're caretakers of it. See, Great Spirit put us here, but we have to share with everybody, right? Nobody owns the land on the earth. When we die, where do we go? Our body goes back to her. We become part of the ecosystem, right? Our spirit goes up. I tell my people this, I say, you got problems with the French people. You may not like French people. They might not like you, but I said, your next life, you may be a French woman or a French man. I said, you're going to have to learn. You say, this is how it works. So I said, if you evolve and you enlighten yourself, well, you're going to get to choose your next life. But if you don't, if you're going to have three choices, you're going to have to go somewhere where you don't like, but you're not going to remember anyways, right? So this is the whole thing about evolution on the planet. And, you know, these are the deeper understandings of working from spirit and working from your own spirit and connecting with Great Spirit on a daily basis. You know, like I said, we go through healing, and healing is, you know, I come across many people, whether it's natives in my culture, whoever, they're healers. And I say nobody's a healer. If they say they're a healer, they're just forgetting Great Spirit is the healer. And all our guides, they do all the healing, right? So when we help somebody, and they come to us and we tell them something, the guides tell us a secret about it. Like, how did you know that? You know? So they make us look good so that people will listen, right? This is what it's all about. So they'll listen and they'll build a belief system so they can heal themselves. You just open the door. And the Great Spirit, it's all about energy. So the Great Spirit flows through, and they receive that energy if they're open enough to it. If they're not in fear, it depends on how much karma or fear they're holding. So, you know, like I said, as for myself and healing, I do not work on nobody no more. I don't do that because there's a lot involved. Everybody wants to be a healer. You see the New Age teachings? Everybody's going to school to be a healer in the New Age schools. And I tell them it's dangerous. When they used to come for healing, I got healers in the community here. They come and they need healing because they're getting sick, right? They're out of balance. I tell them, I said, you know, what are you doing? So they're working on people and they don't know how to protect themselves. You can't just work on somebody. If you're working on their energy bodies, say their kundalini, their chakras, you're interfering you're adjusting them. You're going to pull some of that energy, whether you like it or not. If you don't have the know-how and the proper teaching how to protect yourself from pulling their energy, if you work on somebody with a big sickness and you're trying to adjust their energy centers and help them with their karma, you're going to pull some of that. And if you're working on 5, 10 people a day, a little bit, you're going to pull. And you're going to end up getting sick. Every healer I know is sick. Everybody. They all get something. You know, I look at a lot of the Buddhist masters and the Hindu masters. I look at them and they tell you, they say, you got to be careful, right? And I know this from my own people. And, you know, we have teachings on that. You got to use certain medicines, I tell my people. You got to put it in your mouth. You have certain roots. We call it, on the northern English, it's sweet flag. So it'll protect you from pulling something from anybody, energy, people, you know, their energy bodies, their karma, which you don't want. Because if you keep doing this, you're going to have problems down the road. So, you know, it's fine and dandy to want to be a healer, but if you do work on somebody, you have to go and meditate. And you have to work on yourself. You have to clear yourself with sacred we got sage, sweetgrass, cedar. So we clean our auric field, and you got to clean that energy inside and purge it out, right? Sometimes there's a blockage. We work on somebody. We have a bone. We're sucking it out of their body, right? So it comes into us. The medicine we have in our mouth is protecting us, but it'll never protect you 100%. It doesn't matter who you call in. You can call in all the archangels, all your guides. They're going to protect you, but you're still going to pull something from them. Doesn't matter. And this is the respect we have to have. So if you're doing work like that, you got to remember you got to have to meditate. And every person you work on, you're going to have to do a certain amount of meditation to clear that karma. But a lot of the healers don't do that. So they end up sick. I've seen healers, native healers, they get struck by lightning, car accidents, because they're working on so many people. And after days, months, years, the karma comes back, right? You think you're free of it until bam, one day it's in your face. And
Darryl, how do you then, because I think then the sort of solution is to allow people to connect to that innate healing capacity within each individual so that they connect to it, so that they're actually the ones doing the healing. They're not giving their authority out to somebody else to do it. So how would you facilitate that process then? So even if you are quote unquote a healer, rather than you trying to do the work on the person, that you're sort of a guide to allow them to find that innate healing capacity within themselves.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was teaching people because I stopped doing that because of that reason, right? And I would teach people shamanism. I said, here, you learn how to be your own medicine woman, your own medicine man, and heal yourself. So, you know, you got to teach them how to meditate, how to eat properly, right? How to think properly. Everything's involved. It's a whole circle of life. It's not just one aspect. So healing comes in many areas. You notice, Jason, you're a doctor. You can't just look at it from one view. You got to look at the whole piece of the pie. Where are they? Where's their mind? Where's their mental? Where's their emotions? Are they in fear? Are they in grief? Are they in trauma? What are they putting into their body? Are they drinking alcohol, cigarettes, drugs? You know, so if people really want to be on a spiritual path, they have to have balance in every way of their life. So you have to teach them this. So, I was doing workshops, teaching them, but they're fine and dandy. They come to the workshop, but they don't want to do the work. They want you to heal them. They want to be healed, or they want to take a pill.
Yeah.
Well,
it's only when they're sick, then they'll really do something.
Well, this opens up an important part of the conversation, I think, too, because so many people have been conditioned in a way that that the healing lies outside of themselves, and that they do need some sort of an intervention from somebody else to actually heal. I think, and then in that process, it feels like almost over the decades and decades that have gone on with that sort of idea, that then we have genuinely, a lot of people have forgotten that they are connected to that innate healing capacity within themselves. And then we do have most of the tools, or all of the tools within us, to really heal ourselves. So given that that is kind of where a lot of people are, I think, where they haven't been able to kind of connect to that ownership that the healing is within themselves. It brings me back to almost when you had your group meeting the other day. So in light of all of this news that came up recently that we've been talking about here with the 215 children that were found buried, and then you were having a community meeting with your community to see sort of where everybody's at, and even how to start to facilitate the healing. Where is your community at right now, and where do you start that process?
Okay. It's all through communication. So we're starting, we sit down and communicate by a fire. So when we burn tobacco, we open up the spirit world. We invite all of the guides in. We give thanks to all creation. We start with Mother Earth. You thank Mother Earth. You give gratitude for everything in Mother Earth: the water, the trees, the herbs, the plants that nourish us, the food. So it's a ceremony you're starting off with. You work your way up to the spirit world, all the animals and the birds, the insects, all the people on the Mother Earth, all the children. So we're giving thanks for everything. We work up into the sky world, the ducks, the eagles. We're giving thanks to the thunders, the lightning, the rain, for the cycle of life. And we work up to the sun, our ancestors, and to the Great Spirit. And all the guides, archangels, Buddhas, everybody, we're giving thanks to all of them. Because when we open the fire up, we want them all there with us. Because they're going to help us to heal. See? We're limited as human beings. We have our limitations. Because we have to evolve. And when we're open enough, we understand this. If we can work beyond our egos, the ego holds us back in so many ways. So we work up into the Great Spirit, and we go beyond. We give thanks to Orandekoa. That's the Great Spirit of all. Because you got different gods you're calling in, different higher ups. Excuse me, I'm drinking tea and my throat is. And once the fire is opened up, and then that touches everybody's spirit, because before the ceremony, they have a sacred tobacco in their hand, and they're talking to it. We tell them, whatever you want to let go, put it in that tobacco. We'll tell you yourself, ask for the community, ask for the whole Mother Earth and everybody on Mother Earth. So they put that in the fire. They'll usually put it in a basket. Everybody, if there's 30, 40 people there, there's hundreds, we'll collect it in a basket. So everybody's prayers are contained in one basket. So you got all that love, all that consciousness within all that tobacco. And then you start praying in the fire. You give it to the Great Spirit. And everybody's words will go up. See? And then that touches their spirit. And it'll give them healing. Because we're helping each other heal now. See, Jason, you asked how. So we don't have to touch them. You see? You're a doctor. You don't have to touch their... You see, it's what you do. You can massage people. That's not going to pull their karma. Mm-hmm. But if you start interfering with their chakras, their energy, that's a different story. Right? We're not God. We're a part of God. But we can't go beyond our limitations and think we're something too special. We're going to get in trouble, you see? When we work up to that level, I had a decision to make. I said, one day I woke up, I said, why does talk come in my mind? I got to stop working on people, right? I've been hearing different things. So I asked my guides, I said, my own spirit. He says, should I keep working on people? He says, no, you should stop. Stop me and tell me first. You didn't ask. See? When you have the right time, the right wisdom and knowledge, you'll ask the right questions. You'll get the right answer. So I had to act on that. It's either I keep going or keep pulling people's karma, and I'm not going to get nowhere by doing that. I'm going to be in meditation hours a day for them, their energy, not mine. See? So you have to learn how to serve in a way where you can help yourself and help them, because you have to help yourself first. You got to take care of yourself. You just have children. You have to take care of you so you can help your children, right?
Absolutely.
That's the way it works. We have to take care of us first so we can help our families, our children, our extended families, the whole world.
And with children too, Darryl, it's like when we do that, it also, because I would say a lot of times that's not what happens. A lot of times people don't actually take care of themselves, or they do it in a way that's maybe not genuinely taking care of themselves, but then that gets passed along to the kids, and then they pick up the same pattern. So when we do sort of really dive into what that means to ultimately care for ourselves, we become a living template for our children then to see it, so that then they start to care for themselves first. Otherwise, this cycle of sort of not caring for self tends to just keep on going and going and going.
Exactly. Look where we've come to right now. It's 2021. If you look back 500 years, 1,000 years, okay, we were living in creation. It was beautiful, right? Our ancestors were eating the food planted of creation, healthy, organic food every day. And my ancestors, twice a year, they would still, I mean, if you go back 500 years, the earth was pure. You were drinking, when I was a kid, we drink right out of the river, right? It wasn't pure, but we thought it was. So our ancestors were eating this healthy food all the time. And twice a year, they would cleanse themselves on a regular basis. In the spring, fall, they would take a blood purifier, burdock root, dandelion, red clover, slippery elm. They clean the blood. They clean all their organs, their colon, their bowels. They clean the mind, the brain of all the toxins. And there was no toxins back then the way there is now, but they still knew that the system needs to be cleansed. And people this day and age, well, they're living on pizza, hot dogs, and French fries, and they're not doing this. So they're 20, 30 years old. They have health issues that you should never have. So you have to educate them. We need to educate them on how to eat properly, right? So, I tell everybody, do the blood purifier twice a year. Well, no, they want to take pills for blood pressure. What's blood pressure telling you? Well, your arteries are clogging up, right? So it's so simple, but because it takes a little work. Taking a pill is easy. The doctor says take a pill, but where's that getting you? It's getting you only sicker down the road.
It's also been part of the indoctrination that has gone on, where we've continually given up our own power to an authority outside of us. This is definitely a trend, a pattern that we're seeing, and it's important to shed light on it, because again, when you need that pill, who's going to offer you that pill? It's not going to be somebody within your community or a family member. It'll be you going to the doctor, trained by, different schools, overseen by the government, the big companies that support those bodies. So it's, I think what's going on right now is we're shedding more and more light on that. And even communities such as the healing communities, the shamans, the natural remedies, the naturopathic doctors, like they were also categorized and labeled as quacks or silliness, and we're gonna start to, I feel like with all the stuff that's going on right now, we're gonna start to reevaluate all that thinking and all that programming now.
Yeah, exactly. See, we live on the most exciting, beautiful times and the darkest times at the same time on the planet. It's such a contrast, right? There's so much coming. We know we're going through ascension. It's beautiful, but then it's the dark and the light is coming to a climactic point, and we're there now. So people got to make a choice. Where are you going? What do you want? You see, there's no more sitting on the fence, jumping back and forth. You know, one day I'm going to do this, one day that. No, I don't look like that no more. Everything is coming to fruition.
Do you know what comes back, Darryl, with when you were talking about the importance of cleansing, and you were talking about it kind of from almost like a body nutritional perspective. The short story I'd like to share with that too, because I mean, we incorporate cleansing and detoxification is a fairly regular practice. And when we were just talking about this yesterday, because outside of just like from foods and everything, it's really important to like cleanse and detox from lots of different things, because it brings you back, it cleans out everything to give you an idea of what the baseline is again. So it's like when people have, say, if we take it from a diet perspective, you know, people eating all sorts of food that's not great for them. So you do a cleanse and you go through like a bit of a withdrawal period. There's this sort of stuff. And then at the end of it, you get really more in touch with what your body actually feels like and how it feels when you bring things into them that maybe aren't so helpful for it. Mm-hmm. And then on the same perspective, I was talking to a patient just the other day, and she was talking about the media, and she says, you know, Jason, she goes, I haven't watched media for a long time. And she said, the other day I was listening to something, and she goes, right away, it just felt really icky to me and felt like they were trying to manipulate me into something. And I just went, I so love talking to you, because I'm like, because you have literally detoxified from that, you're more in touch with your inner knowing, so that you can tell what does not feel right anymore. You're more in tune with what resonates as truth and what resonates as falsehood. And I feel like this is the importance of when we cleanse for our body, when you bring something back in after, you get a clear example of how it makes you feel when you've got a new set point. When you've cleansed from either technology for a period of time, or particularly from things like the media and being inundated with certain things for a period of time, you recognize how it makes you feel when it gets back into your field.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. So that's one aspect, right? The physical part. We got to take care of our emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies too. So when we go into a detox, the physical way, then we'd have, you know, sweat lodges. So that'll clean you, and you're detoxifying that way too. So you're purifying your mind and your spirit through that too, your emotional body, right? You're giving it back. You're asking Mother Earth to take what you're carrying with you. So that's another way of healing, you see. If you can combine them all, it's better, you know. And then meditation on a daily basis. If you can connect, you know, I tell people, connect every day to Great Spirit. If you have 10 minutes, do it. It's going to make a big difference in your life, you know. Work on your chakras, and you're getting them spinning. So it's creating balance in your mind. So everybody that I used to work on, some chakras are going backwards, you know, some are stopped, and they're stopped spinning and going backwards. And then I said, well, they're going backwards, man. They're suicidal, a lot of people, when that happens, you know. And then you can know who's suicidal. It's simple, you know. You know, when they're traumatized in their mind. And so you get those chakras working, but you want them to move their own chakras. Take that 10 minutes a day, you know, get it working. And then you're connecting with your spirit, your soul. So now your soul is going to be in harmony with you, instead of just, you know, your soul is going to teach you lessons, let me tell you, because that's what our karma is all about. We come in the third dimension to purify our soul wants us to purify our karma, right? Wants us to evolve. So wants us to get beyond all this stuff. So the more we learn, knowledge becomes wisdom. Yeah. And then our hearts open more. So it's an everyday connection to source, Mother Earth, you know, but people get overwhelmed. It has to be simple at the same time. Spirituality should be simple. We're moving to a higher consciousness, a higher dimension. We don't need all these spiritual teachings that are just, I've gone through a lot of teachings, and a lot of them it's a lot of mind stuff, but it's okay if you need that for a certain time. And then you move on to simplified. It gets simpler and simpler as you go along. It's supposed to, you see, if you're paying attention and you're following guidance of your spirit, you see. It's like what we're doing right now. Tia, you said you did the login a while ago in the shower. See? You're multitasking. So you'll do that. You've got children. You have to. You find and you're making your connection to your spirit and great spirit that way. You see? And it's simplified. You can do that in a minute, 2 minutes. And what are you doing when you do that? And you can do those chakra codes. And what is it doing for you? Huh? It's purifying you. It's healing you. You're evolving. You don't have time who has time to sit there and practice for hours? Right? I practiced Buddhism for I don't know how many years. I was practicing 6 to 8 hours a day. I was like a monk living in my house. I was like a fanatic. I had to get rid of my karma, right? I realized I don't need to do this no more. I wasn't living my life. I had to do it first. That's where you have to listen. So you don't get lost and be a slave to your mind and your ego, right? Because spirituality could be ego too, right? Absolutely. We all have ego, and it's okay to have a little bit. But without the awareness, that ego is going to be taken over and it's going to run us. So, we police ourselves, right? This is the best thing in life. So you be your own police officer. Hey, get back on track. But after a while, it's just a natural part. You just live it. It's a way of life. I tell people, there's not much to think about if you did the work before, right? Because you're just living it. It's a natural process now. You're just doing that. That's who you are. You become who you're supposed to be. So you're not lost in the monkey, right? And we have to go through that when we're young. Of course, we're trying to find who we are. We're trying to find our connection. What is this all about here, right? There's a lot of stuff going on here, right? A lot of distractions. It's a crazy place, let me tell you. Mother Earth is crazy. I love Mother Earth. Don't get me wrong, but it's crazy cool here, man. This is the whole Mother Earth how we should be. Yeah. We're a big family here. We're dysfunctional upon the planet. But we have to come back to that world view where we can be a loving family with each other and have world peace. And, but it's getting out of the consciousness we're wrapped up in. But I wanted to show you, and I talked to you about the wampum belt, right? So this is puro wampum. And this is what we offered to the Dutch, to the French, the British, and to the U.S. government. They all accepted it. When the U.S. accepted it in 1789, George Washington sent his advisor, right? His name was Pickering. He accepted the puro wampum. It's the law of the land. So he went back to George Washington and he says, we accepted the treaty with the 5 nations. And George Washington told him, what did you do? You shouldn't have done that. Because they're bound to it. See? My ancestors were in ceremony for a long time creating this. They didn't know what they were agreeing to. Because we knew we had to make a treaty with them. Because now they are outnumbered us 1,000 to 1, right? Many people say, well, why didn't you just wipe them out? And you say, no, we can't do that. That's not what we're about. We have to have love. Because you have to think for many generations. You have to think when the earth is going through the shift. It's not just about now. It's easy to wipe out people, but then you got to pay the piper for that, right? There's karma involved in that. So this is a beautiful wampum. What it explains here, see, these 2 purple rows, we're in our canoe, they're in their vessel. And we're going down the river of life together, side by side. And none is to interfere over each other. You live your life, we live our life as brothers and sisters. on that river of life. River of life, we're flowing through the cosmos. That's the river of life. Mother Earth is a little ball floating around in the universe. So the white there signifies the purity of Great Spirit. And the purple, it signifies your crown, the highest state of consciousness. We're supposed to work with each other. See? So this is what we had offered to them. And they accepted it, which was a beautiful thing. That's why we're still here today. Because they had weapons of mass destruction back then that we couldn't. We had bows and arrows and war clubs, and they had guns, right? So our ancestors were very intelligent to create this Turo Wampum Treaty, and there's so much involved in the treaty, but I always see what's going on in the planet and the worldview. If they took this treaty, the foundation of it, and went to Israel and offered that to them, the Palestinians, they could have peace there, you see? But there's many on the planet who don't want that. So, we can't fix everything here. We have to fix ourselves, work with like-minded people, and we shift the planet. Whoever's there at the end will make it. And hopefully we can, wake up many people and all evolve together and ascend with Mother Earth together. This is what we're doing. This is our goal. And we've been doing this for, since the beginning that we all were here as human beings. We're so-called human beings. What does that mean, right? We're human beings. So we're supposed to treat each other with that humanity and respect and honor. And it's not always that way, but, we got to do our best to always bring back the connection to why we're here. Our road of life could be a beautiful path, or it could be destructive, whatever we make of it, whatever we choose. But it's only the knowledge, like I said, and then it becomes wisdom. That's a higher consciousness. So you can make it a better place, the earth a better place.